So all these work hand in hand. And in order for you to love God and love God correctly, meaning loving God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, all these areas need to be in check. And how you can get all of them in check, like I said, is to ask yourself, what are you feeding yourself? Because all of these boil down to what you're consuming on a day-to-day basis. Hey God family, how y'all doing? I'm God's daughter. Welcome to God's Daughter Ministries, where we help you live completely sold out for Christ and help you grow in your relationship with God. Today's video is based on Matthew chapter 22, verse 36 to 38, which says, "Teacher," he asked, "which is the greatest commandment in the law?" Jesus answered, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and most important commandment." And Deuteronomy 6 verse 5 adds, "with all your strength." So we'll be looking at what it means as well as how you can love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. But before we start, if you're new here, first time on this channel, first time seeing my face, or you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to hit the subscribe button and join the greatest family in the world. Check out my other videos and my other social media pages. Like, follow, share all that good stuff with your friends and your family, so you too can help them grow in their relationship with God, and let's spread the word of the Lord together. So before I can tell you how you can love God with your everything, I just want to briefly explain or briefly talk about what it actually means to love God. Now, when you say that you love God, it means that you have a relationship with Him. Just like any other relationship that you have with anyone around you, it means that you are spending time with Him, you talk to Him, and it's a two-way conversation, meaning that you speak, He speaks. You speak, you listen to what He has to say. You want to know Him more, so you read His Word. You include Him in everything that you do. He basically becomes your everything. Everything that you do it for God. And when you say that you love God, it's not about emotions or feeling a certain way towards God, but love is all about action. Love is not a feeling as the world would lead you to believe, but love is a choice you make to act in a certain way towards someone that you care for, someone you respect, someone you appreciate, and someone that you admire. So what you do in response to your love for God shows you how much you actually love God. Your actions, your life, the things that you spend your most time doing, it says a lot about who and what is actually in your heart, soul, and mind. In order for you to love God with all your soul, heart, mind, and strength, it all boils down to one question: what are you feeding yourself? In order for you to love God with your everything, you need to check if what you're listening to, what you're watching, what you're reading, the things that you spend most of your time doing, you need to check whether that is conducive to your relationship with God or not. Because out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. What you're full of will determine what you spend most of your time doing. It will determine what or who you give your attention to and what or who you love. And if you feed yourself the word, praise and worship, prayer, then loving God comes easy. It becomes natural for you. But when you keep feeding yourself secular music, you keep feeding yourself perverted movies and perverted videos, you keep feeding yourself worldly values and worldly beliefs and all of that, where do you think your heart, soul, mind, and strength will gravitate towards? Because it's not going to gravitate towards God. So in order for you to love God with your absolute everything, you need to check what is it that you are feeding yourself on a day-to-day basis. Love the Lord your God with all your heart. Your heart can be seen as the place of spiritual life, the place of your feelings, your motivations, your reasonings, your understanding. This is where your decisions and your morals come from. They all come from your heart. And in order for you to love God with your heart, you need to look at what you're spending majority of your time doing. Because what you spend most of your time doing, that's where your heart is. What you spend most of your time listening to, what you spend most of your time watching, what you spend most of your time around, who you spend most of your time around, shows you where your heart is. It shows you who is the center of your heart. That is basically what you are building your life on. So if you spend most of your time reading your word, if you spend most of the time praising and worshiping God, most of the time praying, most of the time at church and serving at church, that shows you that your heart is with God. But if you spend most of your time in non-God related things, then that shows you that your heart is nowhere near God. As it says, there's a verse in the Bible that says that out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. What you fill yourself up with, that's gonna come out. That's gonna show in the things that you do. That's gonna show in the people, the type of people that you hang out with. It's gonna show in the things that you accept and the things that you reject. And in order for you to love God with all your heart must be set only on what delights God. Luke 6 verse 45 says, a good man brings good things out of the good stored up in his heart, and an evil man brings evil things out of the evil stored in his heart. For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. What's in your heart, that's what you're gonna speak. What's in your heart, that's what you're going to speak. You know how it says in Proverbs, I think 18, it says that the power of life and death are in the tongue. The power of life and death are in the tongue. It's very, very important to watch what it is that we speak. And whatever our heart is full of, that's what we're going to speak. So if our heart is full of God, then we'll be constantly speaking life into us, into the people around us, and into our situations. But when we are not feeding ourselves God, when we are not filling up our hearts with the word and with prayer and with praise and worship, when we are filling up our hearts with the things of the world, that's what we're gonna speak. The negativity and the death that the world represents. So it's very important. Be careful. Guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Whatever your heart is full of, that's what you're gonna speak. Life and death are in the power of the tongue. Be careful what you speak. In order for you, be careful what you speak. Watch what you speak. And in order for you to be careful what you speak and watch what you speak, you need to watch what it is that you are feeding yourself, because what you're speaking is what your heart is full of. Loving God with all your heart means that you are filling your heart with goodness, so that what you speak shows God. What you speak is life. Love the Lord your God with all your soul. Soul can be defined as your life, your personality, your inner self, or your identity. It's where you make most of your decisions and the choices that ultimately decide what your lifestyle is going to look like and what your behavior is going to end up looking like. So loving God with all your soul is loving Him with your entire life. It's loving Him with everything that you are, everything inside of us. It's loving Him with who we are. Loving God with all your soul is just about devoting your life to Him and living a life that is faithful to God. It's commitment to love God with and in every area of our lives, in every part of our lives, every moment, every day, every circumstance. It's commitment to God, faithfulness to God, love to God, devotion to God. And how can we love God with our soul and with our life? Make godly choices. Make godly choices, because the choices that you make influence your behavior, and that behavior is what dictates whether or not you love God. Like we said in the beginning, that love is not a feeling, but love is action. Love is a decision you make to act in a certain way towards someone that you respect, admire, care for, and appreciate. And in order for you to love God with all your soul, if you want, for you to love God with all your soul, you need to make deliberate choices that influence your behavior. You need to make godly choices that will influence your behavior towards God.